from their encounters with races from other planets. The information is the activation. Let's awaken this world together. We are the forever students, and we will not be silent. We are the ones that we've been waiting for. Pretty well. Welcome, everybody, to Full Spectrum Universe. My name is Rob Yox, and I'm glad everybody's here this evening. So let's jump right into business. We're the embattled broadcast that essentially explores human potential while studying the past and remaining within the present. We get to dictate the terms of our future. Welcome to another broadcast. We're going to have an amazing time tonight. I see Omar out there. What's going on, brother love? Awesome to see you. Ainsmouth, J. Rocco, Jason. Great to see everybody this evening. Tonight, we're going to be talking about second density frequency, as well as the sacral chakra and essentially the instinctual mind, and how all of these are corroborating within the sacral chakra and our etherical body around us, and all how it works with the matrix that we live in, this reality matrix that we all know. So with all that being said, I just want to say before we start this evening, and of course, please like, share, subscribe. This is part of the fundamentals of who we are series, which in turn is going to be a playlist on its own. And you can use this as a tool to help people understand who and what we are, right? I want to say to Omar, who is out there, while I'm not able to make it to Canada for your wedding, I am sending you nothing but love, joy, and a tremendous amount of years forward into infinity of happiness, of loving, of consideration for each other, and welcoming you into the married life, my friend. And we love you here. And for all those who are not here, if you have not subscribed to Omar's channel, we're going to put that in the chat for you a little bit later so you can subscribe as well. But let's all give him a quick congratulations on this upcoming event within his life. It is important that we find our herogamic unions, and I believe he has found his in his soon-to-be wife. And I think that he is going to prosper and excel from this moment. So that goes to you, brother. Much, much love and gratitude to you and everybody involved in what you're doing. So, well, you and your wife, pretty much. But welcome, everybody, again. We're going to have a good time tonight. This is an important avenue which we're exploring now. What we're trying to do is we're trying to break down reality as we know it. And by doing so, what we're doing is we're understanding who and what we are and how we are basically within a relationship with everything around us, and how we go about maneuvering through these areas, because it's ultimately important, especially in this day and age, especially in this day of awakening. First thing we need is tools to help those around us who are still sleeping to wake up. There is a lot of people still sleeping, but one of the things we want to do is we want to give them the opportunity to understand it, right? And I'm not saying I'm the end all be all. This is just my interpretation of what I believe is happening all around us. And I think that when we start to dive into it, a lot of people are going to resonate with this, with what it feels and what we're doing here. So let's jump into the presentation at hand this evening, which again, it is 2D frequency, the sacral chakra, and instinctual mind. This is fundamentals of who we are, part 3. And let us jump right into the beginning. Opening salvos are set aside for these presentations because I think the information is essentially more important. So this is the 2D frequency. This is the mother of all chakras, right? And I say that with an affinity and love. But just knowing that the second chakra as the main pain body, it's been tough for many of us, right? And one of the things we're going to be doing when we do the next energetic workshop is working on that pain body, which is why this is important as well, but also with the traumas that cause this to be the pain body. I'm going to give you a story about halfway through tonight's presentation of something I felt that has happened to me recently that essentially has been afflicting my sacral chakra. So if we're working at the 12 tree grid, or basically the core manifestation body, which is a little bit different than the sacral chakra itself, it's actually in about the same area. And we're dealing with this specific orange ray particle wave spectrum, right? The first chakra was the red one, but now we're moving into the orange. And this is the second ray in the second dimensional energy and how it actually comes into your body. So the first point of connection is that it actually comes into your body as our reproductive organs. So for the female, it's the vaginal area or the cervix, and in the male, it's the prostate gland. This is the second chakra energy center frequency and the orange ray, and it first enters through the holographic template in that area, which in turn enters the holographic body as well. So also in this area, it will enlighten its colors and move away from the orange wave spectrum at times. So once the sacral areas are healed of the sexual misery programming and the lunar forces, the color wave spectrum moves into what is known as the vertical axional lines. And these axional lines are the vertical lines that move up and down our light body. And this works with all levels of the universal frequencies. So these axional lines come up through the body, and our second dimension of the axional lines is on the right index finger. Remember last time we talked about the left index finger, right? So on the left index finger is the one dimensional frequency, and on the right side of the body is the second dimensional frequency. And it's on the same finger, but on the right side, right? So it's corresponding on either side, which represents also the masculine and the feminine as well. So this connecting to your body for a moment, and you see that line of light coming up on the right side and coming from your index finger and coming from the second finger or your big toe as well. So to see that wave spectrum, like the axional cable coming up through your body, right? This is how we see this. So this is how the second dimensional frequency comes in and illuminates the grid of the second chakra energy center. We're going to talk about that very quickly, right? So the second chakra then illuminated as the cone about 1 or 2 inches beneath the navel and in this area, which later expands into the lower energy center, right? Which is basically a seat of the monad, or it's basically your upper pelvical area to the area in which your reproductive organs are. So we call it the seat of monad, and that's when it becomes embodied or imbued with the energies, right? The second frequency energies. So that's kind of like a little bit of a rundown of a little bit of how it works. So as we keep going here, the second center operates as the chakra, which is an opening to your lower emotional body. And we understand what the lower emotional body means. It's the lower resonating emotions. So it operates as the instinctual body, and then contains the aberrant emotions, which is in the pain body, which form into the lower emotional body, which is the conglomeration of the both. So the higher emotional body is really in our heart center. And until we open our heart to the force of love, we don't really know what love is until that moment. So this is an important distinction to recognize, that many people who have not developed the heart chakra or have not developed their soul and connecting to soul energy, they're experiencing emotions through this instinctual body, which is devoid of love. Now, I'm going to bring it to me real quick, we're going to go into a little bit of what I just said, but almost in layman's terms. So if your heart center is not where you're bringing your emotions in or the energies in from, right? Which then turn to the higher emotional body, you're bringing it through your instinctual mind, which is the lower emotional body. And what that does is it keeps you resonating within the lower resonating emotional frequencies. So to experience love, which is a high resonating frequency, and if we go back to what we were just looking at, this tells you, you can see the difference between anger, fear, disgust, happiness, right? Sadness, surprise, natural, anxiety, and then the love. You see, the love is the most brightest energetic piece of that entire graph you're seeing right in front of you. And depression and nature or neutral are the two lowest, as they're the most coolest, right? The red flame indicates high energy. The blue indicates low energy. So if you look at this as a whole, you'll see that most of the lower emotional bodies from the pelvical region down are extremely blue, except for love. Love embodies the entirety, except for, of course, the leg joints, which is not that serious because energy, those are conduits that energy runs through. But this graph is a self explanatory graph which shows you how the emotional body and the emotions that run in your body correspond to the energy levels that are in your body as well. That's why it's just super important to understand this. And we have to understand the way we take in energy. When we take in energy from the heart chakra as opposed to the sacral chakra, it's more likely that that energy will come in on a frequency of love, right? As opposed to a lower embodiment of emotional frequency. So, as we keep going, now, again, this was an important distinction, right? And it's an important distinction to recognize that many people, again, who have not developed this heart chakra, have not developed their soul and connecting to soul energy. And they're experiencing emotions through this instinctual body, which is devoid of love. And in fact, most of the human beings on this planet experience most of their concepts and experiences of love through their second chakra as well, because it can come in. It's not that it doesn't come in, but most of the time it's not, right? So for many of us, we understand that it's a very fulfilling place to experience a sense of what love is as an energetic force. So most of us can remember our second chakra initiations, right? Because it's the most pain we've ever felt. And it generally is involving members of the opposite sex, a lover or a partner. And it sets us up for these relationship lessons with sexuality. And they all can be very intense, whether it's the emotion behind it or the experience itself. So, our second chakra influences our inner relationship to how we interact with others, not only in terms of partner or lover or sexual situations, but it holds the first layers of the integration of poles of opposites within the masculine and the feminine energies. But it's connected to all of our relationships. So all of our relationships are mother, father, brother, sister, friend, family, social, work, you name it. Every relationship is recorded or has influence in this center. This is why so many people get stuck here, because to evolve, we have to get over that pain lodged in area for our relationships to flourish. So we must bring the pain in the second chakra up into our heart and dissolve the pain through forgiveness and unconditional love. Now, this can be one of the harder aspects of what we do here. So I may wait for the story until the end because I believe it'll be more impactful at the end of the story, at the end of the presentation. So let's keep going now. So the second chakra contains the instinctual level of our body functions. It's important. It's very, very important. So it's our second body or second layer, and it vitalizes the chakra and brings in this orange ray or a higher color wave beyond orange for higher initiation or initiates, of course, but for those qualities of our being to experience relationships with others. We all have a lot of healing here in regards to programs or sexual programs and healing our gender confusions and sexual issues. So, if this area is not healed, we will not have healthy relationships, healthy sexual relationships, and so on and so forth. So, most of us know a lot about the sacral chakra. So, again, we won't dwell there too much. We know how it's an instinctual level impulse and that we need to gain control over it. So, in addition to the sexual aspect of it, it is the seat of addiction. When the pain body is not addressed and emotional conflicts have taken over, there are a lot of addictive possibilities that can exist within there. And if our emotions are not properly addressed and expressed, the subconscious and instinctual body work together, which can increase the addictive tendencies for beings that have those particular emotional problems. So the emotional body and the second layer is a higher, more refined type of frequency than that of the subconscious layers. It is the next octave and it's finer substance than the etherical body. And of course, it is associated with instinctual feelings and drives. So it roughly follows the outline of the physical body. This body is more fluid than the etheric body. And when you look at the etheric body, it has a more type of look of a grid line or a blueprint type of look, like a network of lines moving through the body. The emotional or instinctual body is more of a fluid and it has more colors and splashes, and it's depending on the state of the person's emotions. So it tends to be more fluid and change more sudden without these lines and grids. It's not as uniformed as the etheric body. So this body interpenetrates all of the bodies it surrounds, and it surrounds the etheric body and the subconscious mind, and it surrounds the root chakra layers that the subconscious body resides in. And it usually extends between 1 to 3 inches from the physical body. So when you look at it, for those of us that are clairvoyant, you can also imagine the vary from the really brilliant and beautiful hues of color to a really dull gray. And it depends on the clarity or confusion of the feeling that produces them. So when we're scanning people or seeing other people's energy fields and you sense the gray or the dull kind of film around this body, this signifies depression, sadness, or spiritual suppression within the body. Clear and energized emotions such as love, truth, inspiration, and joy brings really bright and clarifying colors to the emotional body. So this body contains all the colors of the rainbow and each chakra within that body. And it looks like vortexes of different colors. This is where the rainbow body connection comes from for the higher emotional sensory experiences and more refined higher frequencies, which get us into a higher state of consciousness. I hope this is helping you. Again, so please like, share, and subscribe. I see that we're not getting out to as many people as we used to, and we're doing our best to essentially get this out there to help humanity. It is important. It's super, super important. Now, I know a lot of you are not getting notifications to come to the broadcast, which I can only believe is their way of suppressing this information. Not only have they done that, they've been trying to attack me on a energetic level because of this information. But we pursue ahead. We push forward because there's nothing that they can do to stop us, nothing they can do to stop me. And they know that. So now they're just trying to slow me down. And that's the story I'm going to bring to you at the end of this program. We're going to talk about an instance over the last few days where something has been trying to essentially attack my sacral chakra, right? To set me off into those lower body emotions. And I'm going to get to that a little bit later, but let's keep pushing forward here. I know they are. I know they are, Omar. This is what they're trying to do to subvert our messaging to people out there who want to empower themselves. They're trying to take away our ability to do so by making things happen. And I'm going to explain exactly what I mean by that a little bit later. So, I mean, I'm good. I'm so good that they can't touch me with a 10-foot pole, even if they wanted to. But they tried, and it caused my body to do some crazy things. But we're going to get there. We're going to get there. I promise you. I won't leave without telling you the story. So, and that's true, or many people have been saying the same thing. They, everybody I know that is trying to help others are being put into this area, into this box, and stick within that sacral chakra and distort the energies, which in turn cause mental harm, physical harm, and spiritual harm. They're trying. So let's be cognizant of that for everybody who's out there. So as we get to the next step here, we're going to talk about the emotion and intuitive facility of our second chakra and its relationship to the second layer of our body and its function, that of the data relay, right? So what does that mean? So what the emotion body does is relay directional electrical impulses and information from within the soul matrix into the cellular memory storage, and that's within the subconscious mind. So understand that everything we experience is about sensory feelings. So the emotional intuitive uh, facility in our body is the data relay center. And so, as we hold the process of feeling what it feels like, it's reprogrammed to storage in our subconscious. This is important to understand in order to transform negative energies lodged within our subconscious. It's also important to understand that the soul doesn't speak to that storage language in the same way that our mind processes it. So that's one of our big challenges, especially right now, as we're learning these new languages: the language of the heart, which is about feelings, the sensory perception, which is about intuition and energy, and so on and so forth. And the way that we have been trained in our culture to understand linear language, we think in a linear process of perceiving time and space. In the material three-dimensional world is how we see it, right? So this is a linear perception of intellect as well. And it's in a direct opposition of how the soul actually functions, how the emotional body actually functions, and how we connect with the divinity. This means that the superconscious self, the universal mind, or the divine mind structure work on sending impulses within the feeling sensors of the emotional self. Spirit also communicates through the feelings and the sensory experiences. So, when clearing and working with these, creating these realities that we want to co create, we really have to master the choice of thought and the emotions that we allow ourselves to experience and learn better discernment of personal resonance. So, setting intentions to live in alignment with our authentic self, which brings more love, more joy into our life, and we live in alignment to our highest purpose and spiritual expression in that turn as well. So, even through all the intensities that is created and form deep and powerful transformations and changes, it's very important for us to order to reprogram all of these mind matrices that intercept with these levels of our mental body functions. So while they're saying that they're all separate, they are all connected as well, right? Through different avenues. But what happens is sometimes the messages can get lost in translations because one matrix inside of yourself speaks a different language than the other matrix, and it's up to us to discern those messages and create that new language so that the next body or the next matrix can interpret those feelings, those emotions, those frequencies. That's why the human body is one of the most unique, but one of the most overcoming tools at our disposal, right? It's one of the most intriguing things that we can talk about. It's pervasive in the fact that it overcomes everything. But that's only because it's the physical, but also the consciousness and intertwined. There's nothing that can hold it back once it becomes aligned with each other. That's kind of what we're talking about. So on to the next slide. And as we can see here, the emotion and intuition represent translations of informations from the superconscious mind or a higher aspect of self. And as they're relayed to the subconscious mind from the instinctual mind, be aware to know that the second chakra's instinctual mind is relaying the data to be recorded within the subconscious mind. So a lot of what gets programmed in the data storage area is coming from the experiences that we have had through our emotional relay system. So how we emotionally cognize events is how things get stored in our subconscious mind. So let's say the original human instinctual mind was intended to hold the individuated identity in place while keeping the identity intimately connected to the soul matrix and the guiding impulses of the higher self or superconscious mind. This was originally a part of our consciousness function to keep us connected to our original source and to actually understand that feeling or our feeling of our happiness, our joy, our expansion. This was really our ticket back into the source identity. And once we were done with that experience, it physicalized matter. So it's important to know that this level of our bodies have been manipulated in the human genetic code, energy to build up in between these bodies. And that chaotic energy built up in the second chakra into the instinctual faculty, and it created a lot of distortions in there. These accumulated emotional appearances is what produces the pain body in people in the first place. So we were actually meant to have full conscious awareness of our instinctual mind functions and our subconscious mind. And we were intended to understand how these levels of our multidimensional being work. But over time, we had DNA distortions that generated impairment and emotional dysfunctions, where we were interfered with by interdimensional entities that spliced in their genetic codes and the mental belief systems. And we became cut off from our inner intuitive awareness. And this prevented us from spiritually evolving and merging with these higher spiritual levels of our own identity. So, obviously, if all of us were aware at that conscious mind level of our instinctual mind, the subconscious mind contents, and how they function as aspects of our mind, and that these layers are actually levels of identifying existence within ourselves, humanity would be responding a lot differently to things that manifest within the world that we see today. We would have manifested something else entirely. And in truth, there have been a lot of alien manipulations of the human species coming from the second chakra energy centers because it is a level of identity that most humans aren't even aware exists. And it's because it directly connects to our sexual and creative energy centers. And these centers yield a lot of energy potential. And that makes this area of our light body very easy to manipulate from external forces and entities. This is why we want to be aware of this energy and this energy centers and protect it and fill it with the light directed from our mind. So that is how all of that incorporates, right? Next, we're going to kind of take a left turn here, and we're going to talk about the organs that are associated with the second density sacral chakra and what is affected here. So these are second chakra organs. So the kidneys, the bladder, our reproductive organs are a part of this system. So pay attention and give your body what it needs with love and self-care. So second chakra issues and imbalances may include patterns and symptoms of the following. Let me take a sip of my coffee so I can say it with a clear throat. Okay, first one, our relationship to others, including family, friends, lovers, and partners. Boundaries in our personal relationships, our relationship to our inner child, and we love a good parenting to our inner child, right? Subconscious programs and archetypes we carry related to the ego's belief of identity. Desire body and instinctual body processes like addiction and reactionary emotions. Creative intelligence flow and our true passion and purpose. Female empowerment and the true power of defining the goddess energy within. Reproduction beliefs and the reproductive glands and organs. Now, the fifth chakra or the throat chakra and the sacral chakra are two key creative energy centers that work together. And we're going to get to the throat chakra down the line. We're going to do that all the way down. So don't worry, we're going to get there. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was embodying the monad. We talk about this all the time. And as you can see from the cycles of lives in front of you, you see where the monad sits as per the past lives, the present, the future lives, and the higher self. This chart is an equal representation of what that means, of what the positioning is when you achieve embodying the monad portion of yourself. So, a quick distinction is when our heart is healed, there is a fire that is ignited inside the heart that is accessed, and the fire in the heart is also in the kidneys. There is a triangle that connects the heart into the kidneys within our light body. And the kidneys are in the base of that triangle from left to right. And the point of the triangle is the heart. And where the heart is healed, there is the twin flame ignition within our heart and kidneys, which shifts the heart configuration, right? And then there's the twin flame equals a structure of light within the heart. So the two flames ignite within the heart. And the monad is the greater flame, and the physical body is the lesser flame. So when the flame is ignited, there is an ignition in the heart and a fire or vital essence that comes into the kidneys. This is how we get to the position of understanding who we are to embody the most monad self available to us within this time and space. Now, to go full monad, I think we have to transcend this physical body. But we can take essence of the monad and embody it down here, which brings us in direct connection to it. So, this is the last slide for this evening. After this, we're going to go into the story of what I told everybody I was going to do. This episode is going to be a bit shorter than the other ones, and the reason why I'm doing this is because I'm centering on one specific point of interest in each episode. I don't want to bring in the next chakra, or the next frequency, dimensional density, and then we're half one here and half in another. So, but don't worry, this one is going to take a minute too. So, because of the instinctual mind and the pain body and the three layers of ego, this collects different levels of emotional trauma and pain and buries it in the areas of the body and its mind centers. So, this accumulative pain is collected from previous, current, and future lifetimes of soul fragmentation. And as a result of this pain, it comes as a result of pain, abuse, and trauma. So, when this pain is unhealed, it results in split personality or dissociative personalities. This is called alters, right? Or alter egos. These fragments are attachments which collect, congeal, and attract spiritual attachments from the astral plane at both the second and fourth chakra layers. So, this over time builds up more painful miasma, dead energy, and blocks the second chakra and the soul matrix from being embodied in the first place. Further, it creates the 2D walls of separation within the three layers of ego and embeds inside this instinctual mind. So the guardians have identified the seven most painful implants of separation that impact the majority of human beings on earth right now. These are emotions that trap you within these implants. So the first one is unworthiness, telling yourself that you are not good enough, believing that you are not good enough or you are not worthy of attaining such liberation or freedom or love or fun or happiness. That is an implant of separation, shame, guilt, not reconciling things from your past and carrying them with you into your future moments is what guilt is all about. You can never truly be in the present if you're focused on the past or if you're focused on the future. The guilt and shame are the two areas of guilt being the past, shame being the future. Guilt saying, I can't get over this specific thing that happened, and I'm going to carry it with me further on. Shame is how you think about it in future tense if you ever say it to somebody or you ever show somebody what this guilt is all about. You're afraid of being shamed, right? Lack of trust, self doubt. Again, not thinking that you're able to do whatever you set your mind to, not being able to trust yourself to stay away from certain things you know are bad and are going to do harm to you. The fourth one, betrayal and abandonment. This is when we become so enamored with the presence of others and other things that when they leave, we feel betrayed or abandoned. And we can't get over these things. So we carry this with us. We have to be able to be with ourselves and stand within ourselves, whether that means with somebody or alone, and find those moments of happiness to correct these abandonment issues. The fifth is anger and rage. This is letting some of the things that you feel about yourself, this is a central projection onto others or letting certain things get to you, whether it's small or large, and they had to build up to spill out. This essentially is where you hold contempt for somebody else and don't look to see it from their point of view or angle. Therefore, the lower vibratory emotion of anger comes into play. Now, there's two more, and these two are the most important. And one of these, which is the second to last one, which is the next one, is what the people who are the negative entities use to perpetrate specific ways of human capitulation to their program, right? So the next one is fear. We see this all day. This comes at us from every angle, whether it's another human being or something within ourselves that has been programmed. This is an emotion that most of us have to make a subconscious effort to get rid of out of our lives because it's so programmed into our instinctual body, into our subconscious body, even into our conscious body. This can be carried across all of our reality matrices, all of our bodies, and all of our layers. And it is detrimental to all of them. And the reason why they have a program that makes you capitulate to this fear is for the last one, which is entrapment and enslavement. They are all connected. If you see how we went down that list, one precedes the next, right? Worthiness is the predecessor to shame and guilt. Shame and guilt is a lack of trust or self doubt, right? And the reason why you have self doubt is because you've been betrayed or abandoned. And the reason why you feel betrayed or abandoned is because of that anger and that rage, and then eventually that fear that nobody's going to want to be around you. And now you have become enslaved to the fear and everything that precedes it. Wild, right? That was an eye opener for me. Just to go through that right now, that just made me shake to my core, because it is truly, truly incredible how one reaction can take us off of our base. And when we get off that base, it impacts the entirety of our soul, entity, and etherical being. This is why we have to be cognizant. We have to create discernment. We have to protect ourselves to not get caught in this fear-based mechanism and then become ensnared and trapped and enslaved, to be capitulate to their programs. Because then we ultimately hand over our liberation and our freedom willingly. It happens all the time. It happens all the time. And here's the thing. I want to be very, very clear about this. Okay? I'm not saying that none of us have setbacks and that once you attain a certain level, you're not going to have setbacks. And I'm going to tell you about a setback for me that happened over the last few days. Because nobody's perfect and we all slip. And this is why I'm saying this out here now, because I feel that it is imperative that I say the things that are bothering me so that the weight of them is lifted and this will not happen again. And I look to all of you for help and reassurance. And I am not up here pontificating something without going through the process myself. Okay. So last Thursday, I was at work. Now, at my job, we lift a lot of things, heavy things, all different types of things. I actually bent down to pick up a marker and hurt my back. And I hurt my back and I got extremely angry because it wasn't picking up something heavy. It was merely bending over to grab something that was so not even a pound, right? And it so happens that I had to finish out the rest of the day with a hurt back, and it affected me for a few days. Now, what I didn't notice was that these negative entities had been trying to attack my sacral chakra, but at such a low level that something else was accumulating in my pelvical area over months. And at first I noticed it and I thought it was something different than what it was. I thought I was getting a hernia. But again, it wasn't a hernia. And now my back was hurting. So the fear and the fear that I did something terrible to it and the anger of which I was feeling in those moments left me open. And in that moment, they bombarded my sacral chakra with negative energy. Okay. And because of that, I thought that I had a tremendous hernia to the point where a portion of my pelvis swelled to a, a large, angry red area that looked like my guts were coming out of my stomach lining and down into the front of my body. Now, this is a trap that they set for me a long time ago, and they were feeding it and feeding it and feeding it. And the moment I got angry, I was exposed because I didn't regulate my thought, or I didn't regulate this happening. And then they bombarded me with it. Now, come to find out, it wasn't a hernia. I had an infection. And they said it could have came from an ingrown hair, anything, but that was a tremendous relief off my shoulders, because a hernia would have put me out of work for a long time. I would have had to go through recoup, and it would have been opening me up. But an infection is an easy fix. And this is one of the reasons why I'm grateful for people understanding around me. I had to go through a lot of process to clear this energy out, right? And this is just reaffirming why we have to go through our past lives and find these positions and traumas. Because Anu could be right. It could have been something from a past life lying in wait for the right moment to rear its head. But again, we can all fall susceptible, and we have to be mindful of it. Now, the area in which I'm talking about is a lot better now that I've done enough to clear out the energies of it and really go forth. But it was super painful. And it swelled up so much that I wasn't walking properly. I couldn't lift anything. It was very, very detrimental. And it was quick. It was quick. But this, I believe, was an attack on me and us to try and stop us from empowering others. They know the work we're doing. They know they can't stop us. So what are they going to try and do? Slow us down, right? Slow us down emotionally, slow us down spiritually, slow us down physically, slow us down financially. It's a cycle. It's a cycle. But I'm here sitting and living proof that these things can be overcome. So the next energetic workshop is going to be about past life traumas, present life traumas, potential future life traumas, finding them, diluting them, and dispersing them away from you and getting rid of them. And then on top of that, we're going to talk about ways to protect yourself from those types of traumas happening again. Now, you're probably sitting there saying to me, well, if this just happened to you, how are you going to teach others how to do this? Listen, we're all a work in progress. And I'm not saying I have all the answers, but I have set up a program in which to be cognizant of how we go about this and how we can become aware and figure out what works for us to get this stuff out of here, right? To figure it all out in a sense of who we are and what we are. And this series is all about recognizing that. So, with all that being said, I love you all for being here. Again, please like, share this, share this, share this, subscribe, and leave a comment when this is finished. This has been Full Spectrum Universe. I'm Rob Yox, and I hope this found you with love and abundance, and I wish it for all of you. I love you all, and have a great evening.